This conference will now be recorded.
Hiya, so thank you for watching our video today. We've decided to record a video on mental health and menopause and the impact they have on each other. My name's Lisa Billard and my job role is Senior Organisational Development Practitioner, and at the moment my role is leading on health and wellbeing. And I'll hand over to you, Gail.
Sorry, I'm Gail Meadows. I'm a clinical psychologist and I'm the clinical lead for Department of Psychological Medicine in the Trust.
So we wanted to put this video together because we've put a menopause offer together for our trust. We spoke to staff and asked them what they wanted, and staff told us that they would like a closed Facebook group as a staff network. So we've now set up an NLAG and menopause staff network. We've created some hints, tips, guides, information. There's an awful lot on the Care for Each Other page. It's called the Menopause, but it's for someone who's approaching, experiencing, or for somebody who is supporting a loved one going through their menopause, because it's about the whole family unit, not just the person experiencing the symptoms. So there's a lot of information in there. So that's also duplicated on VivUp. So all that information is on there if you wanted to look at that outside of work. So the reason we wanted to do this was to help people going through the menopause. And so what are the stages of menopause? So the first stage is called perimenopause, and that is when a woman started to notice some changes, and then that will lead on to the menopause. So the term for the menopause is exactly 12 months after the last period. That is the official date of the menopause. After that, you are classed as post-menopausal, and that can be from anywhere to sort of 8 to 12 years, and it can go on through that. So there's lots of different symptoms. There's over 34 symptoms to the menopause. Some people will experience very slight menopause symptoms. Some will get severe symptoms. Some will be in the middle and some will experience all. Some people will have a mixture, and there's also cognitive and psychological impacts. So I'll hand over to Gail to talk about those.
When you asked me to do the video, I was very excited, but when I started doing the research, I was really shocked at the range of symptoms that women go through, and I was quite saddened actually as a woman myself that I wasn't aware of the breadth of things that we go through when we hit the menopause. So you're absolutely right, there is a huge range of symptoms that women have, and unfortunately it's all linked to those hormones depleting as we go through the menopause. So what I found interesting when I was doing my research is the fact that actually so many of our cells in our body rely on estrogen. I foolishly thought it was mainly just our ovaries, that's what they were involved with, and it's all about our periods, and it's just not the case at all. The neuroendocrine system we have in our body, which really connects our mind and our brain and our body, is very, very reliant on those hormones. So when it comes to like the cognitive changes, the role that estrogen has in our brain is it helps our brain to use the energy. I found that we have 10 times more receptors for estrogen in our brain than men do. So our brain is a really hungry part of our body. It uses up most of our energy through the day, and estrogen for women is a big factor in that. It encourages our brain to burn the fat so that we can think and we can operate. So you think when we go through the menopause, our estrogen levels are dropping. That's why so many women feel like they have a brain fog, they can't think as clearly, and they start to notice problems with their mood. So, you know, everything in our brain dictates how we feel, how we move, how we interact with our world. So the area in the brain called the amygdala is really important for mood. And if that isn't getting stimulated properly, then that's when you do tend to see more anxiety and depression. Right next to it is the hippocampus, and that's really important for memory. So feeling forgetful, misplacing things, wandering into rooms and not remembering why you went there, that's going to happen. You've also got the hot flashes that women experience. It's because of the hypothalamus. That's important for how we regulate our body temperature. If that's not being stimulated properly, it can't do that as effectively. And then you've got the sleep changes as well, from the back of the brain, from the brainstem. So this really hungry part of our body isn't getting stimulated in the right way, and that's why we see so many symptoms. So like I say, the fatigue that people experience is because our brains just aren't using energy in the same way that they used to.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you said as a woman you felt quite disappointed that you didn't realise the impact and what people go through. And through doing this work, I've spoken to a lot of our colleagues in the NHS and have said similar things. I've said, I'm a healthcare professional working in healthcare, but I didn't understand what was going on with my own body. I thought it was depression, I was diagnosed with anxiety, and I just assumed that's what it was, because people don't think to question it, because they think, oh, I've got anxiety, I've got depression, but actually it could be so much more, couldn't it?
Yeah, and one of the questions that came in, like, really helpfully identified that the time of life when most women are going through this change, 45 to 55 years old, a lot of people are seeing their kids leave for the first time. They might be coming to like the peak of their career, where they've got that top promotion they want, or might be changing career. It's a real transitional time in our lives. And so it's really easy to think, well, that must be why I'm anxious. That must be why I'm depressed, and I feel fed up. And when we're fed up, we're more likely to pick up the chocolate and not go out for as much exercise. So the weight gain that you see in menopause is very easily put to that, instead of our body is trying to store fat because fat produces estrogen, and our brain knows that it hasn't got enough estrogen, so it's fattening us up to try and produce more of it. So yeah, it's really I was really shocked as well, and I'm such a neuro geek. I love the brain. I'm really interested in it. And when I was reading all of this and I saw the impact, I just thought, oh my goodness, like, I really need to think about this for the people that I work with, the women who are in this age bracket, that when they say, I don't know why I'm anxious, and I'm trying to dig around and find out that actually maybe your hormones have a big role to play.
Yeah, and given the demographic of our workforce, the majority is in the female and also the age bracket, because there's also ovarian egg insufficiency before perimenopause. So potentially 1 in so many women will go through that as well. So given how many women we've got in our workforce and the age of those women, that's why it was important for us to do something like this, to highlight the different changes for women, because it is significant, isn't it, those changes that they go through.
Yeah, and it's not just the cognitive, it's not just the mood. There's really big, significant changes happening in the body. Like I said, that I didn't realize just how many cells in our body rely on estrogen. We have our bones, which use it in order to be, replace themselves and strengthen. So that's why women are more high risk for osteoporosis after the menopause, because the estrogen isn't there. So you can see changes in facial structure as well. So when people say, I don't really feel like I look like myself, well, that's probably very true, because your actual structure underneath your skin is changing. And then your skin changes as well. It dries out, it becomes thinner, more fragile. Again, it's because the estrogen isn't there, encouraging the blood flow and encouraging the replication of cells in your skin. So when that thing that I kept coming across, where women were saying, I just don't feel like myself, things are changing. Well, yeah, because in your mind, in your brain, and in your body, all of your cells are crying out for this hormone that just isn't really there anymore. Yeah. And that's hard enough when it declines over years. Harder again for women who have a sudden loss of estrogen due to surgery or due to some treatments.
Yeah, and when we look at our workforce and how it's made up, the statistics show that women going through the menopause don't like to talk about it. They feel embarrassed, and it's twofold. One, because they feel embarrassed that they can't keep up with their colleagues and their peers, and they start to lose their confidence and they think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I keep up with somebody that I would work at the same pace as? But also it's admitting to possibly a male manager who might be uncomfortable having that discussion to say, I'm going through the menopause. And I think there's an element where somebody had said that they felt that the Mickey was taken out of them because that was how people saw the menopause. And so it was twofold, but so many women, 1 in every 4, because the symptoms of the menopause will be so significant, they would rather leave their employment than actually sit and have that conversation. So part of what we're doing with this video is to say, you're not on your own, it is okay, we've got lots of support in place. If someone is struggling, and that with a health condition or a disability or something that's impacting on your work, which would include menopause, Remploy will come in and work with you for up to 9 months, and you'll have a support worker that you will work with. They can work with you and your manager, and so the plea is, please don't suffer, you're not on your own. So we know this happens, but we don't want you to leave work. We want to make adjustments, and there are things that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you say, the demographic for our workforce, there are so many women, and I think not only as women, but unfortunately as a culture, we're not very good at talking about when we're finding things difficult, especially when it comes to things like female health, you know, periods and even childbirth and then the menopause. You know, these are things that have a really, really big impact on women. And one thing I do want to reassure anybody who's going through the menopause or has been through it at the moment is that the research, although you may feel like you're not as clever, you're not as sharp as you were, actually the evidence shows that you are, but because of that fatigue, it can give the impression to yourself that you're not. So actually your abilities are completely intact, they're still there, but what you need to do is look at how to boost your energy levels in different ways.
Okay, so one of the things that I was looking at was how to manage symptoms, and there's a group called Meno Health, and they have people who come in and run sessions. Obviously we're not in a position at any point in the near future to do that, but what they did say was, if you get up for 60 seconds out of every hour, even if you just stand up and sit down for 60 seconds, over a year, it is like you've run a marathon. So basically, moving for 60 seconds continuously on every hour will then be the equivalent of running a marathon without actually having to run a marathon. But it's really important for your bones and to get the blood flowing to keep it going. And hydration is another really important key, isn't it, for this, to keep your fluid intake high, to keep your blood flowing and keep things, to feel more awake and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing as well is to look at diet. What's really going to help with the brain functioning are sort of fats, things like omega-3s, which you get from fish. You can also get them through vegetarian and vegan ways as well. But they're really important. The brain loves it. It laps it up, and it's really, really good for all of that brain energy. And the other thing that can help with your brain, with keeping your brain nice and healthy, is having as many antioxidants in your diet as possible, particularly vitamins A, C, and E. And you get those through really, really bright, colourful fruit and vegetables. So I've been saying for years to all my friends and family, you should eat a rainbow every day because it's fantastic for your brain. So when you're at sleep at night and you get into that deep sleep, that's when your brain really starts to look after itself and kind of clear up all the waste. Those antioxidants really come into their own at that point and help your brain to get that really, really good recovery. So yeah, eat a rainbow every day, and that should help you along too.
Excellent. So they're really important. The other thing that we've heard a lot about recently is that with coronavirus, people are putting off going to see a GP or going to see the practice nurse. So what people leading on menopause have said is there really is no need to wait. Please do not wait. Do not suffer with these symptoms. Please go in and get some advice. But what they have said is what is a really good thing to do is keep a diary for say a month or 6 weeks of your symptoms, how they affect you. So if you're not sleeping, is there a pattern to it? Is there log your food so you can see if there's a trigger within the food, but also do your research. It's your body and it's patient led, so it's down to you to say what you want. So even if you're not sure if you want medication, if that's not the route you want to go down, that's fine, but be absolutely sure you can rule it out. So do your research and find out what you want, find out what you don't want, and then when you book your appointment at the GP, book a double appointment. Find out who your menopause specialist is, because most practices will have somebody who specialises in it. It could even be like a family planning nurse, but find out who that specialist is and then book a double appointment with them. Take your notes in with you, take your research in, and then talk about it. That will give you enough time to have a really good conversation about what you want, what you don't want, and then see what your options are. And what the experts have said to us is, if you come away from that appointment and you are not happy, that's okay. Please go back for a second opinion. Just because that's the advice you've been given, and if it's not suitable, that's fine, but go back and see somebody else and see what they get a second opinion and see where you go from there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There there isn't enough training given to a lot of medical professionals around the menopause, so definitely looking for that specialist person at your GP practice is always key. Unfortunately, you really do have to do your research beforehand. The appointments are short and you need to know what you're going in for. And unfortunately, the research shows that many women in that 45 to 55-year-old bracket who are having the first time that they're feeling anxious or depressed and go to their GP, instead of them thinking, could this be the menopause? Could you be perimenopausal? They're actually prescribing them antidepressants. Now, that could work for some women, but it's not going to work for everybody. So if you feel like that actually isn't the best fit for you as well, then please challenge it. Go back, find somebody who can work with you, because the treatment and support through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, it has to be tailored to you. We're all individuals, our bodies, our minds all respond differently. And so you have to keep going back, unfortunately, until you find the thing that fits for you.
Yeah, and so the message for us is, as an organisation, what is it that we can do for you? How can we help you? Remploy will help with if there's reasonable adjustments that we can make, but it's about, let's have this conversation. Let's make the menopause conversation as commonplace as it would be if you'd broken your leg or if you've had a sickness bug. It's about having the same conversation with the same amount of sensitivity as you would have with any other condition, and say, okay, what is it you need? How can we help you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to take time because it's not part of our usual conversations. So maybe sometimes taking somebody with you who you might feel comfortable with could be an idea. But yeah, absolutely, please come and speak to people about it, because we do want to support women going through this.
And also there's an element in here for line managers, isn't there? If they're not comfortable with that conversation, that's fine. We can do some training, or we could set somebody else up that you were able to speak with, someone from HR, possibly one of the champions or the ambassadors that we have at the trust. We have a lot of those. It could be, you could come to me as the health and wellbeing lead. I can help. I'm sure, Gail, you'd be willing to help as well, wouldn't you, if someone was struggling? So there's lots of different routes. Nobody is on their own with this, but we need to make things better for people rather than them leaving, because if 1 in 4 leaves, that's a lot of women that are going to leave our organisation, and unnecessarily, but with all that experience that goes with them as well.
I was just going to say, a lot of very experienced, skilled, valuable women are going to be lost to us if we can't make this conversation more commonplace. Like you say, how's your broken leg? How's the menopause going for you? Are you okay?
Yeah.
It seems like such a strange conversation to have, but it really shouldn't be.
And I suppose it's picking up on, maybe it's not so much the obvious things, maybe the less obvious things, where maybe someone's a bit withdrawn, or they're a little bit quiet, or normally they'll make a cup of tea and talk to you, and then they don't. So maybe it's just about saying to one of your colleagues, I've noticed you're a bit quiet. Are you okay? Should we have a cup of tea? It's just about picking up on those non-verbal cues, isn't it? Just to check in with people.
Yeah, and just paying attention and seeing how everybody's doing.
I mean, I'm not saying for a single second we're racing and say, how's your menopause to everybody. I'm not sure that'd work, but
but you would ask somebody, how's your broken leg, wouldn't you, without a sense of it being, and I know that obviously it's an intensely personal thing. I think part of that makes it taboo, and it's almost like mental health. People don't want to go, so how's the depression going? But actually talking about it is the best way for us to feel better. I mean, people are asking you, how do I cope with my low mood? Well, I'm a psychologist, so I'm going to tell you to talk about it. Connection is the thing that heals us the most. And when you're thinking about the way that your brain activates as well, feeling connected, feeling secure, that's when your brain's going to be at its best. Because if you are anxious and you are depressed and you feel isolated, your brain goes into this threat mode and it shuts down. So all of the impact you're having from the menopause, because your estrogen isn't there, it's not activating your brain isn't using as much energy as it should, it's going to be even more impacted by that low mood. So it's not as easy sometimes as asking over a cup of tea, but you're really starting to notice this change in yourselves or a close colleague, then we do have to be a bit brave in reaching out and saying, you know what, I am worried, please talk to me, I want to support you.
Yeah, and it might be that it takes 2 or 3 times to ask. It might not happen the first time, but it's about, like you say, being brave and going back and saying, do you know what, I know you said you were okay, but you don't seem yourself, so can you talk to me? Do you want to talk to me? And it's just opening that door, isn't it, and saying, I'm here, and if you do want to talk, then we can.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and the other thing to kind of say is that if anyone is having symptoms and they are struggling, go seek medical advice. That's what the people are there for. That's what the surgeries are there for, and they will give you advice. They won't turn you away. They will help you. So please, if you are struggling, go and get that support and talk to us at work. Talk to your line manager, or talk to HR, talk to somebody that can help you. Or if you go on the Care for Each Other page, Remploy's information is on there, and so is VivUp's, and it's 24/7 counselling, and it's 24/7, 365 days a year. So there really isn't a time where you're on your own, and you can come to, if you don't want to do any of those, we've got a health and wellbeing inbox. You can drop me an email and then we can chat from there. And we've also, I said earlier about the Menopause Staff Network. If you just Google, if you just type onto Facebook, NLAG Menopause Staff Network, it will bring it up, and then you can add yourself in. There's 40 people in there now, and people have started to support one another. People have started to share their journeys and where they are with their menopause, and their experiences, and they're sharing hints and tips. And there's someone's put 7 different recipes on for homemade ingredients, because somebody put on about the hair thinning, and then someone else screenshot these recipes because she'd been there and done that. So there's another resource on there, and that again is for people experiencing, approaching, or for anyone supporting someone going through this, because we know it's a bigger impact than just the one person. So come and get some help. We're here to help you, and those support networks are there for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So should we go to some of the questions, Gail, that we've been sent in?
Yeah.
So we put something out a few weeks ago, and we asked staff, is there any questions that you've got that you would like to ask? And this is some of the questions that you've sent in. So I'll just bring them up, Gail. So one of the most common, and we touched on it a little bit, I think number 1 was about the brain fog, not brain frog. So I go completely blank and forget my chain of thought and names. Why is this? Because I used to be really good, my memory was great, but now it's just gone. It is absolutely gone.
Yeah, so we did touch on that earlier, but it does come down to the way estrogen affects your brain and how your brain then uses energy. So when your brain isn't as activated and it's not burning that energy, it's not going to work quite as quickly, and that's where you can feel like you're kind of wading through treacle, and things that weren't particularly tiring to do before will probably be now. Is this that cognitive fatigue can be really exhausting. So making sure that you hydrate, you get as much sleep as possible, and that you try to get those fatty acids into your diet. All of that's going to help with that kind of brain fogginess.
Okay. And one of the, because some of these were very similar, some of them. So the strategies you've said about sleeping, would you say getting into a routine for bedtime is quite a good thing to do that would help as a strategy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody should have a bedtime routine. We're fabulous at it with kids. We suck as adults. We stay up watching TV until the second before we go to bed, and then we chuck on some bedclothes and we crawl into bed and expect ourselves to just go to sleep. But don't know many people who do that with their kids. You know, you need a really good sleep hygiene. Our body loves routine, and our brains, although they're really hungry, are super lazy, and they love routines as well. So when you've got you know, you shouldn't be really looking at any screens about an hour before bed. That blue light is really terrible. The bit at the back of your brain, the brain stem, has that's where your kind of sleep-wake cycle is regulated, and that blue light will keep it awake and make it think that it's daytime. And actually what you need is you need that system to start calming down, and it needs to produce some melatonin so that you can get some good sleep. So stop looking at screens an hour before bed, please. And I say that to myself as well. I am such a bad culprit for this. So, but yeah, look at your sleep hygiene. The bedroom should be for sleep and sex only. No TVs, no anything in there. It's a very strict rule in my house. There are no radios, no TVs or anything, because it needs to be a calm and restful space. If you have a light snack before bed, if you have a warm drink, there's lots of hints and tips online that you can look at. And if you find that your sleep hygiene is a bit off, then what I recommend is you make one change a week. Don't overload yourself with lots of changes. You know, start with having a half hour to an hour beforehand to chill out, and have a regular bedtime, have a regular getting up time, because the deep sleep that you have when you have good sleep is so important for your brain health and for your recovery. And I know that in the menopause, sleep can be really, really affected, and part of that is because of the estrogen. It's not helping with that sleep-wake cycle. So I read something that around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning is a really common time for women to wake up. And that's because the melatonin levels drop and your cortisol starts to come up because you're getting ready to wake up in a few hours. And usually the estrogen will help to counteract the cortisol. If you don't have enough estrogen, then you're going to get woken up. Yeah, and it also increases your night sweats. So you get those two coming in hand, and that's where women start to experience really, really disturbed night's sleep. So having a good sleep hygiene means that you're going to set yourself off well for the night and hopefully get some of that deep sleep. And then if you have those good strategies, when you do wake up in the night, you're more likely to get back to sleep. It's not always the case, but you're more likely to. Okay. My best tip is please don't stay in bed for more than 15 minutes. Don't do that. Don't lay there for hours trying to go to sleep, because then your brain will just think bed is for being awake rather than bed is for sleep. So get up, do something that's relaxing, and then when you're dropping off, go back to bed.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The link in the brain, the sleep, the menopause, mental health. It's mind-blowing, literally, how it all links in together.
It absolutely is. And like I said, you know, I'm such a brain geek. I love it. And I know that hormones are involved with the brain, and it wasn't until I really started looking into this a lot more that I saw just the wide impact that it does have, and I was absolutely astounded. But yeah, it has a really wide effect on us.
It's tough being a woman, isn't it? We have it really tough.
It really is. Yeah, we're tough old birds, really, at the end of the day, aren't we?
Yeah.
We have a lot to deal with.
Somebody's asked us about perimenopause, and they've said, I'd like to know about how it can affect mental health. What can I do to improve mental health particularly around the tiredness, to keep myself alert?
So with the tiredness, like I said, it's not just about having a good sleep hygiene, which is definitely going to help, because when you're tired, you're going to be feeling like more ratty. I know I certainly am. If I don't get a good night's sleep, I'm not pleasant to be around. So that's going to impact on your mood. So get a good night's sleep. Your diet has a really big impact as well, because we not only have the effect from the estrogen on our minds, we have the effect of the estrogen on our bowels, and we know that our mind, our mood, and our bowels are also very strongly connected. So when you have a really good diet that has all of those nice antioxidants and has the good fats as well, then that's going to help boost your mood. Trying to do things like relaxation. Now, it sounds really cliche, psychologist telling you to go and do some relaxation, some breathing exercises, but the reason for that is because what it does is it calms down the part of your brain which is anxious and depressed, or that produces those feelings. And what it does is it turns on the part of the brain that allows you to feel connected with people, that allows you to pay more attention, and that can improve your memory. So if you don't feel like you're having all of those other side effects from the menopause, then that's going to have a positive impact on your mood as well. So you really need to think about it as a whole system, the mind and body, and the body and the mind, because they do impact on each other.
Okay, thank you. I'll just go back to the questions. Someone has said about the weight gain. She gained 2 stone really quickly because she took HRT. She came off them quite quickly, but the weight came back on really quick. And she said she thinks that the weight gain makes the face sweats worse. But she's put, and we had another very similar question, are there foods that should be avoided during menopause that would increase the sweats, that would increase the symptoms?
So I think I found like spicy foods might be best to be avoided, just because they stimulate the stomach a lot more, and that can then stimulate your sympathetic nervous system, and that's part of what leads to all of the sweats and the palpitations. So going for something more like a Mediterranean diet, that's been shown with research to really help with menopausal symptoms, because it's so rich in antioxidants and all of those good omega-3s that you need, and doesn't have lots of animal fats, which is not great for the menopause symptoms. And the weight gain, I'm not an expert on HRT. I looked into it a bit, and it's a world away from me because I'm not a medical physician. So as regards the weight gain for that, I don't know, but I do know that because fat cells produce estrogen, the body wants more of that, and so that's what makes us gain more weight. And so it can be harder for women after they're 45 to lose weight and to keep it off as well. So you can see a bit of yo-yoing, and that's where it's a real commitment to a lifestyle change sometimes, getting that diet change and also trying to maintain some exercise, which isn't easy if you're tired and you're feeling a bit fed up.
Yeah.
Or a lot fed up.
So the next question, so libido. So you mentioned sex in the bedroom. So any help to get some or part of it back will make myself and my other half much happier. I miss feeling squiggy and that feeling of excitement, not dread. What can we do to get the spark back?
I think there's a bit of a combination there. You know, we've spoken about all the changes that you can be going through, and if you're gaining weight, you having the hot flashes, you're not sleeping well. It's not the most conducive to feeling a bit sexy either. But it's not just estrogen that gets affected by the menopause. There's also testosterone. So it's not just for men; it's also for women, and that's really important for our sex drive. So if you're noticing that you have a really reduced or maybe no sex drive, there could be a psychological element to it. There could also be a hormonal element to it. And that's where doing your research, going and booking that double appointment with your GP would be really good to think about, well, how can you stimulate that testosterone in your body instead? Yeah. If the medication isn't something that you want to pursue, then having a really honest conversation with your partner. It's not always easy because hopefully we still love our partners, not too irritating, and we do want to have a sexual relationship with them. So if you're finding that hard, and you know, we also have to consider right now is possibly the weirdest situation I think any of us are going to go through in our entire lives. We're incredibly stressed, and that is not conducive to feeling sexy either. So just making sure you take the time out to look after yourself, and maybe just spend some time just being with your partner, even if you don't necessarily feel like it. If you've had that honest conversation about, I don't really feel it, I want to, can we have a go? Maybe if you're not too keen on taking testosterone, which I think unfortunately isn't, can't be prescribed for women in the UK, which is just so rude. But I think you can get it in a cream from GPs. But again, it'd be about going and speaking to your GP about that.
So I guess the key for that is then communication, isn't it? Having that open conversation and just listening to each other, hearing each other out, and maybe do something nice. Maybe have a date night at home, cook a meal together, or watch a movie together, and just reconnect. So
yeah, we're really cognitive women. We need that kind of stimulation for sexual drive anyway. So yeah, it could be that we've disconnected a little bit.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot going on at the minute as well, isn't there? The world's upside down, and then on top of that, you're feeling the way you feel, and you might not want to go and cook a meal, but spend a bit of time, go in the bath, have a bit of you time, put a face mask on, and then watch a movie together, or go for a walk together. And it's difficult because you can't just go out and go to a spa or something for an afternoon, but you just have to go with what you've got, don't you, and make the best of it. So okay, so I'll just see what other questions we've got. Oh, and this was just someone, they actually put on it, it's a bit random, but I just wondered if anybody knew the answer. I always wonder, do you think women know it's going to be the last period or the egg released? Don't worry if you don't know the answer. I just thought I would ask.
I don't know. When I saw that question, it kind of made me think about when I was breastfeeding my daughter, and somebody said, "Oh, do you think you know when it's the last time that's going to happen?" And I kind of thought, well, I didn't know. And I think probably the same. You know, I've had friends who've gone through the menopause, and because when you're perimenopausal, they can be kind of all over the place. You have one, and then for a few months you don't. It may not even register that this is your last one until you look back and you think, oh gosh, it's been a year. Oh, right, that's it. And it doesn't always necessarily mean that your eggs are completely gone. The mechanism is it's too complicated to go into here, but basically it's just because of a combination of there not being enough estrogen to stimulate, your eggs stop popping, really. Now sometimes that can be because there's no more eggs, but sometimes it's because there's not enough stimulation to release the final ones. And that was something that I found out, that certainly for women who may have an earlier menopause, it's really important if they go onto HRT to still have contraception if they don't want to get pregnant, because there may still be a possibility for them to get pregnant, because obviously if you're replacing that hormone, then systems can get up and going again, and you may find yourself pregnant unexpectedly when you think that actually you're menopausal. So just something to bear in mind for the younger ladies.
But important nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, some of these questions are duplicates. And then someone's put more about the physical side. Do sleepless nights and teeth hurt during the menopause? So we've covered the insomnia side, haven't we? But people have asked about aching bones and teeth hurting and itchy skin. Are these symptoms? Is it, you know, is that an actual fact?
Yeah, that is a really I don't want to say normal. It's a regular symptom with menopause, and again, it's because of the effect of those hormones. So if we go with the aching joints first, it's estrogen is used in sort of essentially kind of lubricating our joints and making them move more smoothly. So if you don't have that, they're going to feel stiff. It also has a role in anti-inflammatory. So if you have a stiff joint, your body's response is to cause some inflammation to protect it, and ordinarily the estrogen and other things would help with that inflammation to reduce it. So if that's not there and the inflammation is still going, that's going to irritate the nerve endings and cause that kind of systemic pain that you can get. So that is part of what can happen in the menopause. Yeah.
Okay. And then somebody's asked about depression and the menopause and said she's really struggling and she feels like she's going crazy. What can she do?
I think reaching out and speaking to somebody, looking at whether there's any medication that might help, or you know, going and perhaps contacting Viva or Remploy for some counselling sessions. The depression may be entirely related to the brain changes that are happening as a result of the menopause, or it might be in reaction to the other changes that are happening in the menopause. So it's really important that any intervention, any support that women receive is tailored to them, and that people take the time to understand what is going on, because it's really reasonable to feel depressed that you don't think as clearly, your skin is changing, you're putting on weight, you don't feel like having sex with your partner, you're not sleeping well. I think I'd feel blooming depressed as well. So if that's the root cause for your depression, then psychotherapy is going to be really helpful with that. You know, doing things like relaxation, looking at your diet. Oh, and I forgot to say earlier, the antioxidants, you can also get them from dark chocolate, which is great.
Win-win.
But yeah, so it's going and speaking to somebody. The first port of call is usually your GP, and seeing whether some psychotherapy would be helpful. Some people find antidepressants helps, but it doesn't work for everybody. So I strongly encourage you that if it isn't working within 4 to 6 weeks, please go back and tell them. And if you notice any side effects within that time as well, definitely go back and tell them. But ultimately, speaking to somebody is going to be really helpful too.
And it's important, isn't it, that if one thing doesn't work, please don't give up. It doesn't mean that you won't find the right treatment or you won't find the right way forward. It just means you might need to be a little bit patient with that, but don't give up. You will get there. It's just a case of just going down the different avenues, isn't it, to find out what works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said at the start that there's like 34 symptoms, was it, of menopause? Yeah. So for depression, there's about 7. Okay. And if I saw somebody different with a different set of symptoms, I'd have to see 277 people. So you think about that for menopause, the number of different ways that women can experience this. There is no one size fits all. It's going to take time, and I appreciate that's going to be really frustrating sometimes, but I strongly recommend please persevere, and also let people know that you're feeling a bit frustrated as well. You know, reach out at work and say, I am so fed up of trying to sort this out. that you can get the support.
And on the Facebook page, someone has messaged me and said, thank you so much for setting this up. It's just nice to know that if I'm having a bad day, I can say to someone, do you know what, I'm having a really rubbish day today. And then someone else can go, oh, I had a day like that. And the conversations have started to happen. So staff are starting to support one another. And it is a friendly, supportive environment. And when you join up, it's the same as when you join the staff Facebook group. There's questions on there where it says you have to respect confidentiality. So those conversations on there will stay on there. They're not to be shared in the wider domain, and we've got the social media policy that Facebook will fall under, so it is confidential. But the main thing for me is please don't suffer on your own. You are not alone, and there's lots of different avenues. Just come and talk to us, and we'll signpost you to wherever you need to be.
Yeah, and I say, you know, I'm a woman and I didn't realise so much of this, you know, and while I was looking at it, I thought, God, I don't even know when my own mother went through the menopause. No, she has, because she's nearly 70. But I have no idea, and I don't know what it was like for her. We've never had that conversation, and that's just unbelievable to me that I don't even have that conversation. I've never even had that conversation with my own mother. And I know that actually there's been many times where my own female health has been affected, and I really needed to know, is this normal? I don't know. And so I think that Facebook group is just absolutely fabulous, so that women can connect and go, you know what, this has happened. I don't know if it's normal. And I think we tend to shy away from the stuff that's a bit either racy, like sex, or feels a bit gross, you know, like vaginal dryness. It's a thing. It happens to menopausal women, but you know, that's not an easy thing to talk about, and you need to feel comfortable and safe to do that.
And that is absolutely the place for those conversations. And what one of my colleagues said to me, I've worked with my other colleague for 4 years, and we were both struggling with that issue. And she said it took us 4 years to get to that point and have that conversation. And now it's a, you know, they can talk about it openly. They talk about other things, but it's just getting to that point, isn't it, where it's okay. It's like the broken leg. It's just the taboo subject, and it's not. It's just about normalizing it, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's so many things that come along with it. You know, there's increased urinary tract infections, there's bowel problems, there's heart problems as well. And if women don't get early intervention with their menopause, especially if they're having really difficult symptoms and if they're younger, we're also at risk for cognitive problems when we're older. And heart problems as well, and osteoporosis. You know, just let's chuck everything in there. So yeah, I think the experts, obviously they're the experts, but they're absolutely right. Please go to your GP. There could be some really long-term impacts from you not going and getting these things addressed now.
Yeah, so that's the key message from us, isn't it? That the support is out there. As an organisation, we're trying, the network has only just started, but the aim is to look at what you as a network, as a staff network, would like from the network, how you want to shape what we do as an organisation. So we've started the menopause work, but this is just the start, and it's about going forward and what we can change going forward. So, you know, if you do want some help, or you want to talk about anything, let us know. But thank you, and thank you so much for doing this video, Gail. It's been really interesting. I've learned some things going through the video too.
That's all right. No, thank you. It's been really it's really interesting to read about and learn about. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.